Hey, welcome to a special edition of Shop Talk Tuesday. Hi, I'm Justin from Noah Guy Bicycles, and you are here on a Tuesday. You're definitely watching Shop Talk Tuesday. Today we have, as you can probably see at the title and everything, interesting topic. Well, it does directly affect the cycling industry and a lot of consumers. And we're going to talk about what we've seen and what the industry that I see it is reacting to this and or not reacting. And we're going to talk about it a little bit more in depth with Mr. Bradley, my insider industry knowledgeable guru that's been in the industry for over 50 years, worked at Trek and various other companies. But before that, I got to do a little homework, house cleaning first. And this show is actually brought to you by
Ever popular chain process or waxing of Vital Bike Chains provides brand names like Shimano, SRAM, and various others to be cleaned in high detailed 5-step process and then waxed to your professional level with either speed chip or endurance chip, which has been proven to have better performance and better lasting events and recreational riding. It takes care of the messy process, and all you have is the clean wax chain ready to perform. Check them out. Discount code with a link below.
You can find those also on my website that directs them to the actual link there. But thanks for Vital Bike Chains for helping support my channel and trusted partner. But hey, we have in the house Mr. Bradley. Welcome back to Shop Talk Tuesday.
Thanks. Great to be here.
Awesome. Yeah, we've talked about industry stuff before, light historical to current events. And, I don't like to really make this really a political channel, but it does, the latest topic of last Friday does directly hit home with industry leaders within the cycling world, which is Trek, Specialized, Giant, anybody that's importing product goods into the United States. And it seems like I would say a win in their column in the sense of not having to pay extra tariffs, but that was pretty much negated quickly within hours with another format of tariffs. And, I'm not an expert and I don't want to be an expert, but it's forced upon my industry to be at least aware of it. And that directly pipelines straight to the consumers. Like you, the cyclists, are going to see increases, if not already, on your bikes, your parts, your accessories. And anytime there's a price increase of this nature, whatever happened historically, prices usually don't go down after the effect of this. And I've been talking to some of my vendors, and they're a little bit of their hardships of getting in products and how that's going to translate to you, the consumer. So it's not just a Trek thing. It's not just a Specialized thing. It's actually every cyclist is affected by this. And the unfortunately part of it is that we have not seen the true effects of this because a lot of the inventory, I was talking to my vendor yesterday, they already had a lot of inventory left over from the over inventory before last year. So they still had inventory to sell, so they didn't adjust prices. The problem is right now is that inventory is starting to deplete, and the things that do sell, they need to bring back in. And you're going to definitely be seeing anywhere between 15, 20 to 50% more on a lot of products. Cost to them, where that's going to be translated to the cost to the consumer. So what's your take on last Friday's Supreme Court ruling, if I said that right?
It's like you say, it's a mixed bag. I mean, it was the right thing, in my opinion, and I'm certainly not an economist, although my father-in-law is one. But I think it was the right thing for the Supreme Court to do. But you're right. I mean, we're right back into it. I mean, the declaration that they were going to impose the tariffs, and it's introduced this continuing level of chaos, which every business, regardless of whether it's the little old bike business or some, mega conglomerate, business, everybody hates chaos. It's hard to plan. It's chaotic. You can't budget properly. It's crazy. So, and it's a real another level of headwinds, or whatever you want to describe it, for the bicycle industry. As we come out of a very tough COVID thing and all the inventory problems, and as you were mentioning earlier, I mean, we're still dealing through that. So there's nothing good about it.
Yeah, it is a win. And unfortunately, they didn't have any guidelines to repay all these companies that were technically paid.
No.
And we're talking tens of millions of dollars. And that's,
true. Add a zero.
Yeah. And I mean, per company, like, and within the short term of this, we've lost several companies. Rad Sports is one, and various others, and wholesalers too, that have just closed down. And they're not going to get a check, or do they have a lawyers to come up with the suing process to go through that, which is going to take whoever long it does through that process there to reclaim their money. And at first, it was the only ones in the headlines was Trek. It was the first to push suit through to get their money back. Now there's just a flood of cases, and just, they can't bank on it. They don't know if they're going to get that. And their operation of business going forward is just as chaotic. Even though it was technically a win, it still does not affect the status quo of not just the cycling industry. Anybody that's bringing in any imports from out of states into the United States to run their businesses. So that's pretty rough.
Well, and also you kind of forget it, because a lot of times you think about a complete product coming from overseas, but then you think about everything that is probably made here in the United States probably has some element of imported parts, some component parts in it. So it's pretty close to universal impact. So.
Yeah. It's just, talking to a supplier yesterday, and, I don't have a lot of vendors, but I do vet some trusted partners. And with those particular partners, they're talking about, 15, 20% coming up on products that they're going to list. And that's just on the smaller scale, a smaller company. When you're talking about like UBP, which is a vendor where a lot of bike shops have been getting products from to run their businesses, from service to accessories and what have you, are cutting lines. They're like not going as deep. It's not the one-stop shop anymore. They just can't either get the product in, or it's too much, or they have to scale back. And then it's just a whole like cascade effect, top to bottom. And when you're looking at it as a bike shop, and you're looking as a service person or service manager that's working, and the customer comes in and you're not, you're paying attention to what you're working on, which I got bikes all around me. That's my headspace. And when you need to go to that order and like, oh, I need particular valves for what have you, or tires that the customer specifically wants, they're either not there, or they're another 20, 30% more. And if your system is updated as an inventory manager, if your system hasn't been updated yet, you might be undercutting. And all of a sudden, you're bringing in a set of tires and sell them to the customer below your actual costs, and of actually running it. So you're taking a negative margin. So that's where organizations like NBDA, people that are in that circles, have been really forced upon telling shops, like, you need to check your inventory every other week, like the costs, your suppliers availability, all those things. And because those disruptions have just started, and we're foreseeing those to be even more so going into the next season. As you being your product manager hat back either at Trek or what have you, how how does the company be able to respond or be able to keep the flow of communications with their dealers? Like, what's all entailed with that? Is it? Yeah, I know it's a tricky question, but it's like they're in a hot. How are they communicating to their dealers, do you think?
Well, I think there's probably, I think every organization, every business has to kind of look and say, okay, do we understand this? Can we come up with, like, here's the scoop, like, prices have gone up, we're going to have to readjust, you need to expect it. I mean, I would hope that responsible vendors are coming up with a real message. They're not trying to put lipstick on a pig. Well, they're not trying to mislead people. I mean, I think they need to be realistic, because the main thing people in business, any business, like, is predictability. And so, like your business, if you have one of your vendors, your wheel vendor or whatever, says, hey, Justin, this price increase, maybe it's 10, 15, 20%, whatever it is coming on a particular wheel set in this period of time, then you can make an adjustment. Like, I better look at what I have, and I better maybe raise some of my prices on what I have in stock now, because otherwise I won't be able to afford to replace that wheel for, I'm going to lose money on that next wheel set or something. So it's, I mean, hopefully there's this open communication, but it's just such a chaotic time in the industry. You've got all sorts of things going on. Some people financially struggling. It's like they may not be able to look out, more if they're having all this internal, argy-bargy going on with inside the companies. But I would think there's, probably communication. It might be through the, an actual conversation with sales reps or, sales managers, or, somebody at the level of John Burke addressing the dealer network or something. There's all sorts of ways to happen, but, the main thing is you try and get a grip on, what the message is. And, in some respects is like, how can we help each other through this and, not make things worse. So I'm sort of struggling, and it's kind of hard. There's no one answer to this. So.
No, that's actually drives the point. The complicity is so intense that I would, even myself has gone to and joined an NBDA to, be part of the conversation and share my successes and hopefully help navigate other shops to do so, either through just general service portion of what I found, or in the used market, or the social media platform. Because I feel we're at a sense that we need to circle the wagons and be like, we are heading headwinds. I don't know if that's politically correct anymore, but we're preparing ourselves for already this kind of disruption. And to, my point is like, we need to protect ourselves in the sense that need to rely, even those that were our competition now are, a friend of a friend, of an enemy, that kind of thing. Where, I mean, I don't think it should have not have been there in the first place, but over time, of course, competition, there's that kind of divide. But now we're all on the hot seat, like from small garage shop myself to Mr. Burke at Trek. We're all just working on a solution of helping either our businesses as well as our cycling community. And that really kind of, I mean, if anything's the silver lining, it's really put us all together and reaching out and going, oh, okay, the National Bike Dealer Association, maybe that I can either get insights on it, or I can contribute and be a part of the community, even though my competitor across the street might be a member too. I'm not going to care, because it's all about trying to help each other, and is more of trying to bring us as more of a community. So I'm working with, other bike shops. I'm looking with vendors, trying to, connect, all on my time where I'm not getting paid for. It's part of doing the right thing. And That's on the back end of it. Then when the customer face forward, I'm like, do everything I can to take care of them, either on price or getting the products and navigating through that. Granted, I'm a small volume shop, and I don't even call it a volume. I just do a small amount, but I am still contributing to my community, right? And getting people on bikes and helping them, either for transportation if need be, or situations where they need more of a mental health break, like get out there and ride, that kind of thing. But when you get calls of actions through this organization going to Peoples for Bikes, and they are trying to stop, what was it, Section 121 or something of that, which is going to be proposed tariffs that are 50% on steel and aluminum. That's going to be another huge crippling blow if that goes through. You can tell me, how's that going to, like, some of the impacts of that? What's your perspective?
I think huge crippling blow is a good way to put it. The thing I keep coming back to is why is this happening? And ostensibly you applied tariffs to protect, your native industry or whatever. And there's very little actual bike manufacturing, let alone even bike assembling. In fact, we lost Kent last year. I think they had their assembly plant out on the East Coast, and that was shut down. They were trying.
Yeah.
It doesn't, it just, for us as an industry, I don't think there's anything good about it.
The argument on that is just, it falls on deaf ears. It's just like, it isn't, because, put in perspective, like a chain manufacturer in another country, most of them are made in other countries. You need to get bike, all of them. SRAM, Connex, Campanoli, KMC, all of them. That's a vital part of your bike, right? You just can't, not ride a bike without a chain unless you do belt drive, which they're made there too.
Right.
And you tack on a 50% on top of your chain, which is a consumable on bikes. That's when you go to the bike chain for even a less expensive one is like $29.99, jumps to $60. And that's just, that again, it goes right through the whole pipeline. And what happens, to my knowledge, and correct me if I'm wrong, that when manufacturers or companies that are bringing in products from overseas, they're only going to bring in products that they are almost 99% sure they're going to have a sell through for the year. Right?
Try. Yeah.
They should try, right? Because if anything's like an outlier that it doesn't perform as well, they're not going to bring it in. So if you're looking for that specific tire, chain, bar tape, it may not be there, or with the flavor you want.
Yeah, it's incredibly challenging. It's a lot of impact.
Oh yeah, and then even if you wanted to build, or like I think it's a Steiner in California, they make titanium frames and steel frames. All the raw materials are overseas. They're not buying it. Most likely, they're not buying it. And so those, even though they're doing the manufacturing or white labeling some of the titanium, I think they're building it for. I think it was for like Waterford when they got bought. They're going to have them build the frames there. So even the materials on steel is going to be part of that cost increase, regardless if it's made in the United States.
Well, and then part of it when you look at steel in the bicycle industry, so. It's not like Trek or Specialized or somebody, or say Trek, they're quote unquote an American manufacturer, brings in raw steel. They're buying frame tubing, so it's like where you take tubing and you basically produce it into a product, whatever chromoly steel, whatever it is. So the last tubing manufacturer in the United States was True Temper. And that's long gone. You know, it's like 10, 15 years ago or whatever. So there's no, that's why there's so many things. Unfortunately, there's very little product here that you can, you know, if you're a product manager and say, man, I want to use American steel, whoops, there's none. I want to use American bicycle seats. Whoops, there's almost none. You know, it's just, and some of that may start to get solved through, you know, some advances in manufacturing or whatever, but it's the tariffs, to my humble opinion, and again, I'm just, you know, not an economist, but it's not protecting American industry, and it's hurting the American consumer, and it's hurting American business. And
yeah. I mean, I think you have a lot more people crying, I mean, wolf, like this is really hurting us, than people are like, oh, this is great for us. Even companies like there's a company that makes bottle cages locally, and they source their raw materials in the United States. So they get their stainless steel from the United States. They said even they are still affected by tariffs because the people that make the raw materials for and process the stainless steel are affected by the tariffs for their machining and all their other running the business to actually do that. So the operational costs of making or producing raw materials into steel is still affected. It's like even goes so far up. It's like, yeah, get the raw materials from the United States. That still has a cost to it. That really opened my eyes. I'm like, whoa, this really, I mean, there's no, you know, benefit of any sort, even if somebody is sourcing it from the United States.
One of the things too, for like in that situation, so if, you know, company that, you know, is using raw materials from the States, if you know, there's tariffs or whatever that jack up the prices on imported stuff, they go, oh, now I can raise my prices more because I've got more comfort. I can increase profitability, you know, which might keep a business afloat, or just might, you know, put more money into their bank account or something. But there's so many impacts. It's crazy. It's just, yeah.
Well, what happens is then you know, the general consensus of people buying bikes now or parts or any of that nature of they're watching their wallets. You know, talking to or listening into several podcasts from the dealer side where the mid-range, which is still expensive, but the mid-range bikes that are being produced from 1,500 to 5,000, there's very little customers for that market right now. I'd say. So they're looking for lines that are carrying bikes that have price points under 1,000 to just have something on the floor, because that's the only thing that the customer is currently buying. I mean, you still have the super, you know, those who have enough income or have enough wealth that are not impacted by this. They're still going to buy bikes ish, but that's the 10 to 15,000. But there's this huge, like the volume of bikes that are sold from Trek Specialized, Giant, Pond, whoever is no longer buying. So they're looking for cheaper bike lines or putting pressure on the companies that they are buying from. It's like, we need a less expensive. And on top of that, they're getting it from the other end, because there's been a rash of videos coming out now about Ozark Trail bikes coming out of Walmart, which is Ozark Trail is a house brand for Walmart. And they're producing, well, the one was the gravel bike for like under $300, which is actually not too bad. And then they came out with one that's about a mountain bike, front suspension hardtail. And according to the videos I've seen, that's listed under 600 to your house. And it has the better componentry than like a bigger brand, like a Trek or a Specialized, with that goes for MSRP for $400 more. So for me, when I looked at it, you know, my dad used to say this back in the 90s, like, well, if Walmart ever got their crap together, we'd be screwed, you know, because, and you know, they get that out there. Instead of like Canyon coming in and scaring the pants off of Trek and Specialized and becoming direct to consumer, now they're going to get it from the lower end if they're not careful. So, you know, the whole market, just in the bike portion of it, has gotten really, really weird, just to say the least. Kind of crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, have you seen any of those or had a thought on those?
You mean on the Ozark Trail thing, or?
Mm-hmm.
You might have mentioned it before, but I don't have very much familiarity with them. Truth be told, I'm not much of a Walmart shopper, so.
Fair enough. I mean, just videos. I kind of am just by default because it's like a quarter mile from my house.
I know. I was going to say they're.
I don't know to get eggs and milk, like, you know. Just
yeah, you know, if I was in your situation, I'd say, hey, I can ride my bike over there and pick stuff up. You know, it's like,
yep.
Yeah,
exactly.
But, I didn't mean that to be judgmental. I'm just.
Oh no.
But, you know, it's challenging. I mean, one of the other kind of interesting things you talk about, you know, you look at how expensive bikes have become, and part of it is the entire industry is chasing the majority of the wealthy people in this country are a bit of a minority, but they are doing the majority of the purchasing in this country right now. I saw a statistic like that within the past 2 weeks. So everybody, Giant, Specialized, Trek, whoever, is chasing these Uber bike prices. It's like, you know, prices that us, you know, typical shop rats, you know, you're like, I could never afford that bike. I'll be lucky if I could even ever ride one. You know, it's a. So I think that's part of this equation is there's just been this hollowing out of the, you know, it's either entry level, you know, people hitting these price points, which, you know, places like Walmart, they know, they've done all these studies and they say, okay, we need let's say it's a $4.99 bike or whatever, and they keep dialing it down, and they're looking around. You know, one of the Walden family has a beautiful bike shop in Bentonville. They know what's going on. They know what's cool. And I'm sure that the product managers within Walmart for the bicycles are looking at stuff and then trying to include more and more cool stuff on, you know, amazingly affordable bicycles for the, you know, Joe or Jane average. So, you know.
Yeah. And that does go into, somebody commented here that it looks like they have a shop and they sell primarily used and some new under $1,000, and they're up 61% for the year. And that really falls in tune that like we had conversations, like I'm positioned actually okay. I mean, I had the same thing. Like in January, I have had more service in January and in the first half of February than I ever had. I mean, I'm just like, I'm wrenching, I'm going crazy. I'm, you know, selling parts and frames, and that's good. And that seems to be the conversation with a lot of bike shops now. They're shifting to really explore the possibility of the used market. Even so much that I got an email from Trek from the Red Barn refresh this week, and they are pushing, you know, this is what was new that came in. So they're seeing the opportunity, and that's more towards competing against Pros Closet because their prices are still quite high. But it is an interesting shift that they're like, oh, well, maybe we need to really focus on this portion to bring maybe lower price of bikes in there. Although I don't think they'll go low enough. But the successes so far, what I've seen that of bike shops have leveraged the used market, the lower price point resale of new, as well as service, they're doing pretty good. But keep in mind though, most of the bike shops ecosystem or profitability chart, if you look at the laundry list, it's usually the service department's like 10% of the income of the shop. So it's going to be I mean, I don't think it'll take over the other 80% unless you really downsize and just go to service only. So they're still technically kind of hurting because there's not those bikes, but when you look at the lower price points, yeah, you're selling a ton of bikes and you're 61% up, but the price points that you have are no longer selling $2,000 bikes. It's now 1,000 or less bikes. So your margin and what your take home is a lot lower.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta sell. If all of a sudden your business is revolving around selling $300 bikes, you got to sell a lot of them to keep your doors open. A lot.
Oh, Parker bikes. That's what we Trek A20s all day long, baby. $299 or $219 bikes. Woo!
Yeah.
In the 90s, that's like we'd buy those like every color and deep in every size. But that was the, that's kind of like, are we going back to that? I mean, is it? It's interesting. I mean, we're as you've been around, and we've seen the peaks and valleys, and we've seen different disruptions and booms. And I don't think any of us, I don't think the bike industry has experienced anything like this before, like of this compound.
Probably not. I mean, it's
like between tariffs and softening economy and everything else. But though
maybe the 70s were pretty bad. 70s and early 80s were pretty bad. With the crash of the road bike boom and waiting, we were all waiting for the mountain bikes to happen, or whatever. But that was
came along. Gary Fisher.
Pardon?
Then along came along Gary Fisher.
And a number of other people. Yeah.
He's not the only one, but many others.
Yeah, the Marin County gang.
Crazy Californians.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I was reading an interesting article. I'm kind of digressing a little bit, but the fact that a lot of the core problem right now is entry level bikes and also places for people to ride entry level bikes. Apparently, a lot of communities are going, gee whiz, that pump track or that velodrome, to use a high end type of thing, but pump track or bike trails, gee whiz, we could build a paddleball court because we've got so much demand for that. So there's actually some of the, if you have good bike trails and pump tracks and really cool stuff to ride, people are going to ride more. But if you take that away, it's like, hey, maybe I ought to buy a paddle. And it's interesting because the article was saying not only is it affecting communities and then bike shops, it's also affecting manufacturers. That they were talking about some carbon wheel manufacturers now determined they can make a hell of a lot more money, pardon my French, selling paddleball rackets, making paddleball rackets.
I remember seeing that. I was like, it's so weird.
Yeah.
So I'm so removed from that world, but I'm like, oh, that makes sense. That was actually an outfit in Utah, right? Salt Lake. They converted their manufacturing of carbon.
Maybe, I'm not sure. I was assuming, based on my experience, I was assuming it was an Asian manufacturer, but maybe it is in Utah. I wouldn't be surprised.
I thought it was one. Yeah, it was in the States. It was making carbon fiber rims or wheels, and they just shifted over.
Yeah, which a business. I mean, it's a survival of the fittest type of thing typically, and you're trying to you're trying to keep the lights on and people employed and all that type of thing. So,
there was.
Pardon?
There was that big a release, or I guess leaked about Trek a couple of weeks ago, or maybe even less than that, because everything's been going so fast that they didn't have any profits for they were in the red for like a year and a half, according to this article. And that's just the companies I've been talking to is like, yeah, we're basically living on our savings right now, trying to get through it, or lending money and so forth. And when you're looking at that perspective, it's like you're just digging a bigger hole. And then you see companies like Rad Sports, they just hit a wall so fast and hard that they don't have enough money to even do a recall on the battery. They know it's bad. And then all of a sudden they're chapter whatever, 11 or 7. And then they're technically in the process of being sold. And then who knows, whoever acquires them, are they going to be required to make good on those recalls, or are they just like in Europe? That we have an example of that in Europe. Wiggle, I think it was Wiggle. had some weird, abrupt closing.
Yeah.
When they carried Virtus and New Proof and some other brands. And the company that bought New Proof was like, we're not warranting anything before us. Like,
Right.
that's it.
Right.
We just bought the name.
Right.
And then they're coming out with the product now.
Yeah.
So it's going to be, weird. So when you're looking at that perspective, it's just these, will they be around? There's a good chance. I mean, are they too big to fail? I don't think so. Like, the cycling industry is such a small compared to all the other industries that, the whole thing could completely implode, and, there's no going to be any government subsidies to help these companies out. Like they did auto industry back in it's not what they call that, 2007, 2008. It was like, not the Depression, like a Great Recession or something like that.
The Great Recession.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some good things. I was reading an article about, there's a real call for cycling groups of every stripe, whether you're in a business or enthusiast or, whatever, they all want to land. There's a cycling summit in Washington, D.C., I think next month. And they're really trying to do a concerted effort of, getting to members of Congress and the Senate and saying, hey, we do count. We're good for the business. We're good for the community, and, we vote. So I think that I think is, when you're in tough times like that, it's kind of, lights a fire under people, like, hey, we got to help each other. We need to pull together and get through this. It's challenging. Yeah.
Yeah. And unfortunately, I was talking to somebody who's like, they deal with the international customers too. And, it's like when we talk to our friends up north in Canada or over in Europe, person was rolling our mouths like, I'm sorry. So sorry. So sorry. Because this has become a huge impact on all the other, like in cycling, it's affected all of cycling's markets, like the European, down south, Australia, New Zealand, the Asian markets. It's affected them in the sense that we were a big, like, the United States was the person you can count on to buy your stuff. Like, we're a consumer society, and the brakes got pumped on that, and then everything else on top of it. Now all these companies, like I saw one article that was like in Australia, they were selling to the United States, and it was like, we got to stop completely because can't afford to do business there right now. Not that we will in the future, but that we will. But right now it's shut off, and everything else is being diverted to other markets just to kind of keep going, keep afloat.
Yeah, I kind of wonder what the impact has on American brands overseas. I haven't seen much about that, but I said, given particularly with our friends in Europe, I would imagine it's probably put a bit of a damper on, hey, Trek, Specialized, whatever, these, brands who have been waving the flag since day one. A lot of people might start looking at, more European or Asian based brands that they hadn't considered earlier. So, but I haven't, that's just a guess on my part, but I haven't seen anything whether there's actually been an impact on that.
Well, what I've seen is those who produce stuff, like there was somebody in Canada that produced a product that did sell. It was like a niche product, but they're like, yep, not selling in the United States now for a while. Like, it's as a consumer, can't blame them. It's like we're a hot mess over here, and there's a lot of people like on my channel. They look from out in, and like we're trying to navigate our own mess here, but we know it's bleeding into the other markets. And you're right, exactly. So, like, for example, either Trek or Specialized, they have a boat of bikes, and they know they can't bring them in to the United States. They're going to divert them to other markets. But even then, the other markets might be soft on that brand because
it's American,
of being an American brand. And that's going to impact and cripple are manufacturing or companies that run business in the United States.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
so they even mentioned that. Josh over there had a video on that. It's like they had a brand new mini pump that came out, and they're like, we only have a handful in the United States. Everything else has been diverted to Europe and somewhere else because we just can't afford to bring them in.
Right.
And with the quick reaction on Friday of just imposing more tariffs immediately, like that doesn't make anybody or any company go, oh, we're starting to come out of the clear of this. Like, nope, we're just right back into the fire. And even more so doubling down on it. And I mean, I'm not going to watch tonight, but tonight they're having, the presidential address to Congress, and that's just going to, you're going to hear about it in the news, I'm sure. But, a lot of the companies that have, big stakes in the United States business are going to be really listening. What is the direction? And they're going to have to make decisions with their companies from that, like big decisions, like maybe they move out of the United States completely.
Might happen. Yeah.
I don't know. It's just, I don't know. It's just, and again, I'm calling from, I'm tuning in from Colorado, the middle of the United States, and I apologize immensely.
Same for Minneapolis here. It's
just,
yeah.
Yeah, but we're trying to take care of our communities. I'm trying, I've had some really good customers. Yep, and that's in your neck of the woods.
Yep.
You're out right now, and we're all deathly afraid. I mean, that might be our community next.
Could be.
So it's just it's so weird to feel like you're just. And we had a really huge outturn for that event in Fort Collins. I mean, there was lots of people out there supporting. So, that's just like, you got your business, you got your cycling community, then you got that on top of it. It's like, this is just it's so hard to emotionally navigate, and then trying to figure out, what do I need to do as a business owner? What's the right thing to do? And also that goes up all the way up to the chain to the, everybody else.
The one thing that kind of just came to mind is one of the core things, I've come to this realization, like if I'm having a bad day, my wife will look at me and say, go ride your bike. So she knows I go ride my bike. It allows me to kind of calm down. The adrenaline starts to flow. I start to feel better. I'm outside. I'm in motion. So I think that's one thing for all of us at a very simple level, is like, once in a while, you just need to go ride your bike. Just get out, clear your head. And, a lot of times that allows me in my, little small case to kind of come back and deal with whatever is, upsetting me. And has helped to preserve my marriage over these 30 some odd years.
I mean, there's so much benefit to cycling. I mean, from health to mental health, physical health. Then you have all the impacts of, if you're commuting, and a reduction of road pollution. So there's so many benefits to it. And it is still the most efficient vehicle on the planet. I mean,
Yep.
And it has a really cool, rich history too. I mean,
oh my God, yeah.
You got like crazy characters, and I don't know if you got to saw my podcast last week. I was talking to Bill West, and we had a conversation, and it just, him talking about his adventures of being a bike mechanic. I mean, being a bike mechanic through all these decades and all the changes and so forth. And he's a character anyway, and he still has his wits to him, which is really nice to see, being in his 70s. And, everybody knew Bill. I mean, with his personality, but he always was so customer forward facing. Like a lot of mechanics, they're introverts because they're really good with their hands, and it's a mental process and so forth. He was the anomaly where he had a really quirky personality, great jokes, and a lot of inappropriate jokes, and everything else in between. But he would run up and take care of either the person that owned the mansion down the street, or to the person that was homeless, or on the borderline, and taking care of their bike and giving them the time. And then this, his message from that whole podcast of talking to him was really coming down to, is like, we have a place and a purpose as bike mechanics to help those get out there and be part of that community. And, he fought back against other managers and so forth that were just so dollar driven, like, oh, you got to have such a production run and this, that, and other. He was like, no, I'm going to walk out front and take care of somebody if they need it. Like, I've been around for a couple of decades. F you, try to fire me. And that's where I think a lot of the industry is starting to shift, especially at this independent bike dealers portion of it. They're really emphasizing on customer care and support versus trying to upsell and all that. And I'm thinking about coming up with a videos like, this is what the bike shops need to be doing as a service department to watch out for, because there's some big bullet points that need to change. And that's directly helping and supporting cyclists coming in, not feeling alienated, getting their bike worked on the appropriate price, and they're out there trying to beat their demons, riding and being healthy about it. I mean,
I think the key things we have, one, bikes are just great. It's like they're fun. They're pretty affordable. You don't need a membership to go ride your bike around, on the great trails and around Fort Collins and Loveland and all that.
Oh, yeah.
Same here. It's good for the environment. There's so many good things. And I think one of the challenges right now for everything we've talked about is like, oh my God, I think I'll just go, stick my head in the oven or something. But we've got at a fundamental level, a great thing to sell. You should be in you and I have both been in a position where you get somebody on a bike and we literally have changed their lives, even though we didn't realize it. They'll come back and you go, oh my God, and I think that's something to hold on to in these dark times, is we've got a really good product, and we need to probably do a little bit better job evangelizing. I mean, you don't want to be too pushy about it, but just say, hey, let's have fun. Are people in the store? Are your front facing people good, funny, engaging people like Bill, or is it? There are some mechanics we purposely would keep in the back. I remember one guy in particular, very funny, but man, dark. Not you.
Yeah, I know.
we might talk about him later, but you just want to make sure that it's this welcoming environment. Like, let me help you along, or let me understand, what you're looking for, type of thing. But we're in the bike business because it's fun. I've always enjoyed, the business, just because I love bicycles. I love turning people onto bicycles. That's something to hold on to. I'm just trying to look to the light, it's like.
Yeah. Well, I implore, a big talk-up point for service managers, service riders, front forward-facing techs, because they're the ones that are going to be really the representing a lot of bike shops experience for a lot of people. They may not even been in your shop before, and they're going in there to get some part and what have you. And for what I do and what I found some very good validating successes with my customer, and I usually I don't use word customer, I use community. It's and if you get your mindset on that, you're now putting yourself in a position where, as a bike tech with all this experience, and somebody brings you a bike and then you're listening to them, you're like, oh, I'm going to help you through your journey of getting this bike together. And I have one project here. It's all brand new stuff mostly, but that same customers brought me projects that he enjoys doing, of just buying parts used and giving them to me to put all together and assemble, and I have a great product for him at the end. And then he goes, rides it, and he's like, nope, doesn't fit me quite right. Then he sells it and goes buys another project. But that's where, you know, I'm sharing that experience. I'm, you know, being part of their journey of, you know, getting the bike the right fit, you know, knowing how to use it, making feel good about cycling. And I think that's a huge role. Parts vetting is one that really gets me kind of excited, because there's such a huge plethora of refurbished used parts that are coming out or have been on like eBay and so forth, including my website, where you have that bike that's a 25-year-old bike, a Trek 52 full carbon, still still a valid bike to ride today, and it has some bum shifters on it. You can find probably a match Ultegra set shifters that are vintage without paying a lot for them, and then you're matching it versus getting some, if you can find it, new, very low quality to throw on there. Because that's where a lot of, you know, mechanics and service managers, and, you know, they're just thinking, they're going to their computer and looking what's available from their vendors. And I've seen a shift in some shops, like, oh no, we're allowed to go to eBay and go look for stuff now to make it more of a polished kind of thing. And I do need to do a plug on that, because this is a great segue into this company, where it makes new hand-laced built wheels for rim brake, which is becoming very, very, very small. I'll just do this real short, then we'll just talk about more about product companies like this.
Reciprocal Wheel Warehouse in California has an excellent selection of wheels to choose from. They're pre-built, or also you can have them custom built up to various sizes. You can reach out to them directly if you have something unique like the 650 wheel or a different style hub. Therefore, it makes it an excellent bike wheel set company that actually provides good wheel sets without breaking the bank. You will find them being very trusted and true. They really hold up under a lot of different riding conditions and so forth. It takes the standard old school wheel building practices and puts them in a better format. But in any case, this is a wheel set you'll be really love to have. It'll perform for you for a long period of time, and the quality and the attention to detail is superb. You'll find information about this company in the description below, with also my personal coupon code. I hope you find a good wheel set where it works for you.
Well, the big reason that I partnered, you know, they're a trusted partner. They reached out to me because I'm refurbishing bikes, right? And I know this, but not a lot of people do as consumers. But if you're buying a used bike, one of the things that does have a huge wear, a potential damage or what have you, that's really hard to identify is the wheels. And that's the third of your bike. So he reached out, it's like, maybe it's, you know, I get bikes and I'd be like, oh, I need to try to find a matching Ralph wheel set or something like that, a rim brake. And looking at his prices compared to new to used, is like, that's actually not a too far stretch. And then it takes out all that scary, like the hub wear, the spacing, the tension of the spokes, right? The rims might have hairline cracks in there you may not seen, or dings, or the wall thicknesses are, you know, been compromised, been a lot of wear. So there's a lot of things to a wheel, which is, you know, it's a wheel, but it's very complex. Like so many parts to it. And it's, you know, one of those things could definitely stop your ride or even be dangerous. So it's almost like, get yourself a, you know, a new wheel set. And then if you find that classic, you know, Ralph wheel set or something with Chris King hub or what have you, or old Mavic wheel set that's still intact, then you can go that direction. But, you know, that's just when you're talking about consumables on a bike, especially when you're looking at the used market. I'd say about half the bikes that I purchased used, something was kind of weird with the wheels. And that's, you know, either they have like a ding or just whatever. And it's sometimes really hard to see right off the bat. Oh, yeah. So looking at shops, and what I bring this up is, this is an interesting perspective, because where they're buying from their vendors, they're availability of that particular wheels is being eroded. Like there are no longer as many options for that mechanic to choose from. So when they think out of the box or shop outside of their vendors, because the vendors are narrowing down their inventory, and this gives them an opportunity to be able to go, oh, I got a wheel set and I can get a custom built for you that's for a 200 plus rider like myself. It's going to hold up, but still not compromise too much in weight. You have efficiency and all that, and still within a reasonable budget price, versus low end single wall rims, which is they don't last very long. Or I can sell you a carbon wheel set, which that customer really probably doesn't need that.
Yeah.
So that was the conversations I was having at the local shops here. It's like some parts and stuff are becoming not produced anymore, or they're having a hard time finding them.
The other fun thing with the wheel sets too, and I keep harping on this, but if you look at your bike and it's an old road bike from the 80s or 90s or whatever, and it's like I would look and I would go with as wide a rim and tire combination on that new wheel set as possible. I mean, if you look at what's happening now at the pro level, I mean, they're running like 32s and stuff like that at the pro level now. The ride's better, they're more efficient. I mean, it's a skosh heavier, but the benefits far outweigh that. So yeah, and I've had a couple instances where it literally transformed my experience with a particular bike or two. It's just like, whoa, I want to ride that thing now. So yeah, it's a cool thing.
Yeah, it transforms a bike that feels like you're riding on rails to something that's more enjoyable to ride. And having that ability with a little bit wider rim or be able to accommodate a wider tire, those kinds of things, it is a huge difference. And it's always been that way, even back into, you can tell me how far back it goes, but in the 90s, I've had customers that buy bikes and are like, what's the first thing I should have, upgrade on the bike? And it was always wheels.
Yeah.
That was the first thing. And we would say rotational weight reduction and smoother and durability. But I think nowadays it's more comfortable to ride, make that bike feel more lively, and those kinds of things. And instead of having to go like because the more expensive you go, it narrows down, in my what I've noticed, it narrows down the customer usage case, because they're meant for lighter racers, and they're specific to high performance. It's like it's a wheel set designed for NASCAR type riding versus recreational, which majority, I would say about 96% of us really just live in the recreational world, even though we may race and what have you. But most of us live in that world, and having either wheel set that's easy to work on, componentry that shifts well, even might be older but it's refurbished. Like I swear this is a mechanic upside down, but the 9-speed, the ST 6500 model of Shimano Ultegra and 105 that they made for like 6 years. If you get the set that's still in okay shape and cleaned properly, it will work so smooth and give you such a wide range of gears. And the stuff was built like to last. I mean, I'm surprised a lot of it has lasted this long.
Yeah.
And so therefore, that's where shops, and even looking at Trek, starting to leverage the used market. We already have a non-tariff supply chain of used bikes in everybody's garages in every community, because like I said at the beginning, we're a consuming society. So we've just been buying bikes for the last like 20, 30 years. And there's a huge inventory out there available to be repurposed, reused, upcycled, whatever, words you want to use, and get it done right and still have a lot of bikes for people to ride on a budget easily.
Yeah, I would say for the viewers out there who are not bike mechanics or don't have experience, just be careful with there's a bit of a buyer beware with used bikes, because there can be things like, is that bike the right size for you? Is there frame damage? Those types of things you want to be aware of. But man, there's a lot of good used bikes out there. And I think part of the reason for that is there's a lot of the people who bought bikes in the 70s, 80s, 90s into the 2000s, a number of them have aged out. So all of a sudden you're getting these bikes that were, Uber bikes at the time for incredibly affordable prices that can, have a fabulous ride. Plus, they look pretty cool because not everybody has one. So,
yeah, like more of a vintage feel to it. I mean, every time I ride my Le Mans, they're like, people will just shout at me as I'm riding the other direction, like, cool bike, you're like, cool. You startled me though, like, so, I think since there's going to be a huge resurgence for bike shops, independent bike dealers to cultivate this used product. I mean, for example, Will and Sprocket up north, and
are you getting money from them?
Huh? No, not yet. But no, he took care of me.
Just kidding, because you always reference Wheel and Sprocket about it.
Well, they're such a cool outfit. Yeah,
I know.
Yeah. I'll have to talk to Noel. It's like, dude. But anyway, they've leveraged. I talked to I had some communications with them early last year, and they really leveraged the used, like did tent sales, trade-in trade-in events and all that, and each one of the locations and all that. And you see on their website, they do have bikes that are under 1,000 that are road bikes, mountain bikes that can be shipped to you. But what I'm saying is, like, the bike shops, that's primarily what my business was, is taking the scary out of used bikes. I would refurbish a bike. Essentially, it'd be almost the same as you bought the bike used and had me tune up and everything. And that's what the retail price is. And that's where you're looking at a lot of these used bikes. Not all of them, I'm not going to say that, but a majority of them for a lot of independent bike shops. When you look at that bike, it's like, yeah, it's $700, but it's already been tuned. It's already been gone through. They have some kind of guarantee behind it, and they'll make sure it's the right size for you. So it's taken a lot of the scary out. So therefore, it's providing a huge pipeline for customers that want to get into use and so forth. And there's going to be a lot more available. They're fine-tuned and ready to go for them than there has been in years past, when you have to, like during COVID, everybody just had to go out and just, fend for themselves. And most of the time they got the wrong size bike, or it's not the right one for their experience and all that thing. In any case, but it's one of those situations where I think there's, as we're navigating through all the changes of costs, and they are going to be affected by those used, because obviously we're going to be buying cables and housing and chains and tires, all those consumables to get those bikes refreshed. There's going to be a little added cost to that because of the increase of parts. It's going to be a far cry compared to a full bike. Like, $3,000 bike is now going to be $3,250 or $3,500. I mean, you're looking at a $700 bike that might have to charge maybe $25 more for the cost and variance on that. And also, you're also with that providing employment for a lot of bike tech employees to work on those bikes, because we're essentially, in a weird way, manufacturing those.
No, I mean, they're literally making products. So, I mean, the key thing probably to reinforce again is, if you're in the used bike market and you're not a bike nerd like you and me, make sure you get the right size bike, the right bike for what you're going to do. Which, a lot of times, if you can go into a bike shop and, like, somebody coming into you and you'd help them out, you wouldn't feel threatened by them being in the used bike market. Just make sure you talk to somebody so you kind of have, forewarned is forearmed. You want to go out there kind of knowing what to look for. So, yeah.
Well, sounds like it's a little bit more of a positive, ending on a positive, more positive.
We're
trying grasping for straws here. Hey, for your mechanics.
I mean, I get out, and a lot of times, at least the troubles or worries go away for a little while. So,
take that 30-minute break from everything and try it out and enjoy your ride. And
Yep.
we're on the cusp of spring here, and I'm not going to tell you what the temperature is going to be here today. I'll just make you mad.
yeah. Trust me, I look at it every day, and I'm kind of wondering what my lawn's going to look like next spring too. With the
It's fried right now. It's so no moisture. It's just like crispy, crunchy. But it is.
Yep.
Well, John, thank you so much for helping me navigate through this tariff conversation. It's I think the end of it is basically it's so complicated, even the experts are baffled. But it doesn't mean that we should shy away from it. We need to kind of face our demons and help be part of the solution and not part of the problem, and help out in any way we can for our cycling community as well as other industries that rely on these products and so forth, and try to navigate their businesses forward.
Yeah.
But anyways, I appreciate you joining in.
Yeah, pleased. Happy to do so.
Absolutely. And everybody out there, thanks for tuning in. I know it's a crazy topic. We'll try to be a little more fluffier in coming weeks to help, be more positive, because I don't like to be Debbie Downer. It's cycling's supposed to be fun. I enjoy doing it, and I love my community and my customers that help support me and trust me on doing their stuff, and all my contacts from all those. So thanks again for everybody for watching, and I hope everybody has a wonderful day. And if it's nice in your neck of the woods, please
Ride
go
your
for
bike.
it. Ride your bike.